Bite the Hand That Feeds You by Sorcerer Tal. Another day in my cell, but today is the last day. Slowly, I have etched at the sides of my cage, scratching away layer after dust thin layer of the dark gray stone that makes up the walls of my cell. 1,000 times or more I have scraped at the walls of my cell until blood not only leaked but flowed from my fingertips. Even the bone beneath has been shaped by this process, growing long and pointed till my fingertips have grown spear-like. But the walls of my cells show evidence of my efforts as well. A large cavity, just to the side of the rusted iron lock set in the heavy metal door. This cavity has grown and grown until now. Finally, just one last shove, and I will be free. My only contact with the outside world comes from a small, sliding pane located at the top of the heavy iron door. Any more, I have no visitors but the hand that feeds me. Even before there was little else but study. The same hand that now brings only dead human blood used to bring watchful eyes staring at me for hours, a mumbling mouth speaking only to itself, making observations and jotting down notes on a clipboard about the progress of my teeth or my eyes. I would often be tested at these times, the cage filled with water or bright lights. Sometimes constant noise was given to me as a companion, loud screeching until my ears cracked and bled, leaving me deaf until the sound ceased. I have been housed in this cage since I was a small child. My family had been taken from me by one of the great plagues that had swept through Europe, leaving me an orphan. When my future captor found me, I was living in a hotel surviving off of scraps of edible garbage and alms I was able to beg from the more prosperous. He took me into his home, fed me, and washed me up. I thought he was my salvation, but in truth, he would be the devil that thrust me into hell. After the bath, he led me down a dark corridor which descended down into the bowels of his home. The deeper we went into the earth, the darker and more dungeon-like the atmosphere became. We continued down the stairs until we arrived in a dark, dank room that seemed to be carved out of stone deep within the earth. There were only two features in this room. The first, a large iron door, my future home. Second, a strange man strapped to the wall by silver, shining chains. The strange-looking man spat and cursed through long, sharp teeth as he strained at his chains, with a look of confusion at the links, as if confused as to why they would not snap from the sheer force of his will. At the sight of all of this, my heart filled with dread, and I turned to flee. My capturer, however, knew that I would do this, and grasping me by the shoulders, thrust me up against the wall. They then proceeded to chain me to the wall, in a similar fashion to that of the old man, or the strange man, albeit a little lower on the wall. After this, he brought out a large stone basin, which he placed below my manacled feet. Then he produced a large shaving razor from the pockets of his robe and slit the veins of my ankles, releasing a great quantity of blood into the stone basin below. After a time, my life's blood began to leak away, and my very soul seemed to be slipping from my grasp. At the very moment of my death, however, my captor brought out a long length of tubing, which had a sharp needle at both ends and a sort of bulb or bubble in the center. Taking one end of this tubing, he inserted it into the thigh of the strange man that was hanging from the wall, and quickly that side of the tube began to fill with a dark, almost blackish-looking blood. After this had occurred, he took the second end of the tubing and pierced a vein into my neck, and began squeezing the bulb, pumping the black, oily blood into my small, childlike frame. As this happened, my eyes, at first, began to reopen. I felt myself coming back to life, and then black. When I awoke, I was in this cell with the door that never opens. All that is behind me now, as I await my Creator's approach. I can hear him approach. Those hated, those longed for steps that have always brought the hand that feeds me. Those steps have grown slow and irregular. They have also acquired a sort of a click-clack sound. The hand that feeds me has wrinkled with age. It shakes with strain. I have noticed it shake with strain as it reaches through the iron slat. I have grown stronger and smarter with every passing day, slowly carving the hole in the wall and honing my hands into sharp daggers in the anticipation of this day. It won't be long now. I can hear my Creator's approach, growing louder. Click, clack, the wooden cane hitting the floor. Click, clack, click, clack. Soon I will have my revenge. Soon I will have my first warm meal. Click, clack. I can barely hear his approach over the roaring that is beginning to echo in my ears. Click, clack. I think of how many times I have scratched my fingers to the bone, waiting for this moment, tearing through the stone and sharpening my jagged nails. Click, clack. My Creator arrives, standing just before the door. The iron slat screeches in its tracks, and the hand that feeds me reaches through the door. Knocking the bowl aside, I pierce through the hand that feeds me with the long, sharp teeth, while crashing into the wall, through the door, and into the bright, white, hot candlelight of freedom.